Jinwoo stood before the massive doors of the council chamber and tried to steady his breathing. In his 52 years of life, he had faced many difficult moments. He had fought in wars. He had negotiated peace treaties. He had represented Earth on the galactic stage for nearly 2 decades. But something about today felt different. Something felt wrong. The doors opened with a sound like thunder. The chamber beyond was enormous, big enough to hold 10,000 beings. Seats rose in circular tiers, reaching up toward a domed ceiling that showed the stars above. Representatives from 847 species filled those seats. Some looked like humans. Others were so alien that Jinwoo could barely understand what he was seeing. He walked down the central aisle. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. Every eye, every sensor, every alien organ of perception turned toward him. The Earth ambassador, they were thinking. The human. Counselor Thex sat on the highest tier. He was Velic, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. His skin was pale blue and covered with patterns that shifted like oil on water. His eyes were completely black, like holes in space. He had been alive for 300 years. He had been on the council for 200 of them. "Ambassador Jinwoo of Earth," Thex said. His voice came through the translation device in Jinwoo's ear. "You have been summoned to hear the will of the council." Jinwoo bowed slightly. Protocol demanded it. "I am here to serve, Counselor." "Serve," Thex repeated. The word seemed to amuse him. "Yes, that is exactly what we must discuss." Another voice cut in. This one was harsh, like rocks grinding together. Counselor Mervyn, a massive reptilian creature from the Rim worlds. "Humanity has been part of this council for 73 years. In that time, you have been given much: technology, protection, access to trade routes. We have welcomed you into galactic civilization." Jinwoo said nothing. He knew when to stay quiet. Mervyn continued, "But humanity has proven to be troublesome. Your species advances too quickly. You ask too many questions. You challenge traditions that have stood for thousands of years. You make other species uncomfortable." "We only seek to learn," Jinwoo said carefully. "To grow. To contribute." "Contribute?" Thex leaned forward. "Is that what you call building warships? Researching weapons technology? Expanding your territory without permission?" "We have stayed within all council regulations," Jinwoo said. His heart was beating faster now. "Every ship, every weapon, every colony has been approved through proper channels." "The regulations were written for species that know their place," Mervyn growled. "Not for ambitious children playing with fire." Thex raised a hand. The chamber grew quiet again. "The council has made a decision. For the safety of all species and for the stability of galactic order, humanity must accept new terms of membership." A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. Jinwoo read the terms with growing horror. Earth must surrender 60% of its military fleet. All warships would be decommissioned and recycled. The remaining 40% would be under council supervision. A technology oversight committee would be established. All human research and development would require council approval before implementation. Any technology deemed destabilizing would be forbidden. Human expansion into new systems would be frozen for 50 years. All existing colonies beyond the Sol system would accept council governors. Earth would pay an annual contribution of resources equal to 30% of its gross planetary product. Jinwoo felt cold. He had seen these terms before in history files. The council had done this to 6 other species in the past 2,000 years, species that had shown too much potential, species that had threatened the established order. Those species still existed, technically, but they were shadows, dependent, controlled. Their fire had been extinguished. "These terms are unacceptable," Jinwoo said quietly. The chamber erupted. Hundreds of species shouted at once. The translation device in his ear screamed with overlapping voices. Thex's voice cut through the chaos. "You dare refuse the Council's wisdom?" "Wisdom?" Jinwu looked up at the ancient being. "You call this wisdom? This is fear. You are afraid of what humanity might become, so you want to cripple us before we can stand as equals." "Equals?" Mervyn roared. "You are barely out of your own star system. You have been in space for 300 years. Some species in this chamber have been traveling the stars for 100,000 years. You are children, dangerous, ignorant children." "Then we are children who will not be chained," Jinwu said. His voice was steady now. He had made his decision. "Earth rejects these terms. Furthermore, I hereby announce that humanity is formally withdrawing from the Galactic Council." The silence that followed was absolute. Not a single being moved. Not a single voice spoke. In the entire history of the Galactic Council, no species had ever voluntarily left. Membership was forever. That was the law, the unbreakable law. "You cannot withdraw," Thex said. His voice was soft, almost gentle. "No one leaves the council." "We just did," Jinwu said. "Then you are outlaws," Mervyn said. "Pirates, rebels. The council will bring you back into compliance. By force, if necessary." Jinwu thought of Earth, his home, blue oceans and green continents. 8 billion humans who had worked so hard to reach the stars, who had dreamed of being part of something greater, who had believed the Council's promises of unity and peace. But he also thought of the secret reports, the evidence his intelligence people had gathered over the years. The Council was not a democracy, it was an empire, a very old, very powerful empire that controlled the galaxy through technology suppression and military intimidation. Species that obeyed were given just enough to survive. Species that resisted were destroyed. "Do what you must," Jinwu said. "Humanity will not kneel. Not now. Not ever." He turned and walked back down the aisle. Every step felt like it took forever. He expected to be stopped, to be arrested, to be killed right there in the chamber. But no one moved. They were too shocked. The doors closed behind him with a sound like thunder. Jinwu walked quickly to the docking bay where Captain Nari waited with her ship. She saw his face and knew immediately. "We need to leave," Jinwu said. "Right now." "What happened?" "I just ended 73 years of peace," he said. "Get us home, Captain. Earth needs to prepare for war." The ship lifted off. Through the viewport, Jinwu could see Nexus Prime falling away below them, the capital of the galaxy, the seat of power. It looked beautiful from space, covered in lights and cities. Soon, he thought, it might be sending an armada to Earth, to punish humanity for its defiance, to make an example of the upstart species that refused to know its place. But Jinwu smiled, because Earth had a secret. Humanity had been preparing for this day for 20 years. The Council thought they knew humanity's strength. They were wrong. They were so very wrong, and they were about to find out just how wrong they were. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. Captain Nari's ship, the ESS Defiance, was fast, but even the best human ships needed time to cross the vast distances between stars. During those 3 weeks, the galaxy went insane. News of humanity's withdrawal spread like fire through dry grass. Every species heard about it. Every government discussed it. Most thought humans had gone crazy. A few thought humans were brave. All of them wondered what would happen next. The Council issued statements. First came official declarations that humanity's withdrawal was illegal and void. Then came demands that Earth return to compliance. Finally came threats. Clear, unmistakable threats. Submit or face consequences. Jinwu watched the news reports in his cabin. He barely slept. He kept thinking about what he had done. One decision, one moment. And now everything had changed. Captain Nari visited him on the 10th day of the journey. She was young for a starship captain, only 35, but she had proven herself in a dozen crisis situations. Her ship was the most advanced warship in the human fleet, at least the most advanced one that the Council knew about. "Sir," she said, "we are picking up increased Council military activity. Ships moving toward defensive positions, supply convoys forming up." "They are preparing for war," Jinwoo said. "Yes, sir." Nari paused. "Did we do the right thing?" It was a fair question. Jinwoo had asked himself the same thing 1,000 times. "I don't know if it was right, but it was necessary. The Council was going to neuter us, turn us into pets. I would rather die free than live on my knees." "The crew feels the same way," Nari said. "All of them. They are ready." When the Defiance finally reached Earth, a military escort met them at the edge of the solar system. 12 warships, flying in perfect formation. They guided the Defiance toward Earth orbit. The planet looked beautiful from space. It always did. The blue and white marble that had given birth to humanity. 8 billion people down there, living their lives. Most of them had no idea what was coming. Jinwoo was taken directly to the Defense Council building in Geneva. The meeting room was packed. Every important person in Earth's government was there. The president, the military chiefs, the head of intelligence, the science director. Director Taeyang stood at the head of the table. He was a thin man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had run Earth's defense initiative for 15 years. He had also been one of the first to suggest that the Council might not have humanity's best interests at heart. "Ambassador Jinwoo," Taeyang said, "welcome home. You have made things very interesting for us." "I did what I had to do," Jinwoo said. "The Council's terms were unacceptable." "Oh, I agree completely," Taeyang said with a small smile. "In fact, we were hoping you would refuse them. We have been preparing for this moment for a very long time." He pressed a button. The lights dimmed. A holographic display filled the center of the room. 20 years ago, Taeyang said, a few of us began to question the Council. Why did they limit our technology? Why did they restrict our expansion? Why did they treat us like children? So we began to investigate, and we began to prepare. The display showed a map of the solar system. But there were things on the map that Jinwoo had never seen before. Structures in the asteroid belt, hidden shipyards behind Jupiter's moons, weapons platforms scattered throughout the outer system. "We have been building in secret," Taeyang said, "using resources the Council does not monitor, developing technology in hidden laboratories, training soldiers and pilots away from Council observation." Another woman stepped forward, Hana, the lead scientist of Project Horizon. She was young, barely 30, but she had 3 advanced degrees and a reputation for breakthrough thinking. "The Council controls most galactic technology through the Jump Gate network," Hana said. "Every species depends on those gates for faster-than-light travel. The Council owns them, controls them, can shut them down at will. It is a leash around every species' neck." She smiled. "We cut the leash. 18 months ago, we successfully tested an independent FTL drive. It does not use the gates. It does not use Council technology. It is completely ours." Jinwoo stared. "You are saying we can travel faster than light without the Council?" "Yes, and our drives are faster than the Council's gate system by approximately 30%. The implications hit Jinwoo like a physical blow. Independent FTL meant independence, period. It meant humanity could travel anywhere, could not be blockaded, could not be trapped. "There is more," said a third voice. Yuna, the intelligence director. She was a serious woman who rarely smiled. She did not smile now. "We have been gathering data on Council military capabilities for years. We know their tactics, their weapons, their weaknesses." She brought up new displays, ships, fleets, battle formations. "The Council has not fought a real war in 800 years, Yuna said. They intimidate, they threaten. Sometimes they send small forces to crush rebellions, but they have not faced a peer opponent in centuries. Their tactics are old, their training is routine. They rely on overwhelming numbers and superior technology. And we can match their technology now, Taeyang said. Our weapons are different from theirs. Our shields use principles they do not understand. Our ships are faster and more maneuverable. And our people, he paused. Our people have been fighting each other for our entire history. We know war in a way they have forgotten. The president spoke for the first time. She was an older woman named Yoonji, calm and thoughtful. How many ships do we really have? The council thinks we have 200 warships, Taeyang said. We have let them think that. The real number is 1,200. Most are hidden throughout the solar system. Some are in deep space, waiting. Jinwoo felt dizzy. You have been building a secret fleet for 20 years? Yes. Using automated shipyards that we hid from council inspections. Using resources from asteroids and outer planets. It was not easy. It was not cheap. But we knew this day might come. Will it be enough? Yoonji asked. If the council comes with their full military? Yuna pulled up another display. The council can potentially field 15,000 warships if they call up every member species, but they will not all be equal quality. Many species maintain only token forces. The real power comes from about 200 species who maintain significant military capability. So we are still outnumbered 15-1, someone said. Yes, Taeyang admitted. But numbers are not everything. Strategy matters. Technology matters. And most importantly, will matters. We are fighting for our freedom. They are fighting to maintain control. There is a difference. Jinwoo thought about this. What is our actual plan? We defend, Taeyang said simply. We make coming to Earth so costly that the Council will have to negotiate. We cannot conquer the galaxy. We are not trying to. We just want to be left alone. We want to be free. And if they will not negotiate? Taeyang's expression hardened. Then we make them bleed until they do. The meeting continued for hours. Plans were reviewed. Resources were allocated. Orders were sent out. The secret fleets began to move into position. Orbital defenses came online. Missile platforms and weapon stations that had been disguised as scientific installations revealed their true nature. Finally, Yoonji stood. I will address the planet tonight. The people need to know what is coming. They need to understand why we are doing this. That evening, 8 billion humans watched their president speak. My fellow citizens of Earth, Yoonji said, today humanity takes a stand. We have withdrawn from the Galactic Council. We have refused to accept terms that would have crippled our future. The Council will likely respond with force. Hard times are coming. She paused. But we are not afraid. Humanity has faced extinction before. We have survived ice ages and plagues, wars and disasters. We have always endured. We have always adapted. We have always risen. The Council thinks we are children. They are wrong. We are humanity. And we bow to no one. Across the planet, people watched. Some were afraid, some were angry, but most felt something else: pride, determination, unity. In orbit, Captain Nari stood on the bridge of the Defiance. Her crew was at battle stations. Weapons were armed. Shields were ready. Contacts, her sensor officer called. Multiple contacts, emerging from jump space at the system edge. Nari felt her stomach tighten. How many? Hundreds. Still counting. Ma'am, it is an armada. The Council had come, and they had brought their full might to crush humanity's defiance. The war had begun. The Council armada gathered at the edge of the solar system like a storm. 15,000 warships from 200 different species. Some were massive dreadnoughts, 3 kilometers long and bristling with weapons. Others were smaller and faster, designed for quick strikes. Together, they represented the largest military force assembled in 800 years. On Earth, Commander Minho watched the enemy fleet on his tactical display. He was in charge of the orbital defense network, and right now that network was all that stood between the Armada and Earth. He had spent his entire career preparing for a battle that everyone said would never come. Now it was here. "Give me a transmission to the enemy fleet," Minho ordered. A moment later, Counselor Thex's face appeared on the screen. The old Velic looked calm and confident. Why would he not be? He had overwhelming force. He had the might of the galaxy behind him. "Commander Minho," Thex said, "this is your final opportunity. Surrender Earth's military forces. Submit to Council authority. No one needs to die today." Minho thought about his response carefully. He needed to buy time. Time for the hidden fleets to get into position. Time for the weapons platforms to charge their systems. Time for humanity to be ready. "Counselor," Minho said, "you have come a long way to give us orders, but you are not in Council space anymore. This is the Sol system. This is humanity's home, and you are not welcome here." "Then you choose death," Thex said coldly. "So be it." The transmission ended. For a moment, nothing happened. The two fleets faced each other across millions of kilometers of empty space. Then the Council Armada began to move forward. "All stations, battle ready," Minho ordered. "Activate the outer defense grid. Make them pay for every meter." The outer defenses were the first surprise. What the Council thought were scientific research stations suddenly came alive. Hidden missile platforms revealed themselves. Mines that had been disguised as asteroids activated their drives. Automated weapons systems that had been silent for 20 years opened fire. The front ranks of the Council Armada ran straight into a wall of fire. Missiles struck shields, overloading them. Laser batteries carved through armor. Kinetic weapons punched holes through hulls at relativistic speeds. In the first 10 minutes of battle, the Council lost 300 ships. But they kept coming. There were too many of them. The outer defenses could only do so much. The Armada pushed through, accepting losses that would have made any human commander hesitate. To the Council, 300 ships out of 15,000 was nothing. Acceptable losses. Captain Nari led the human fleet out to meet them. 200 warships against 15,000. Insane odds. Suicidal odds. But the human ships moved like dancers, weaving through space with precision that the Council vessels could not match. The Council ships fought in traditional formations, massive groups moving together, concentrating fire. It was how galactic warfare had been done for thousands of years. Predictable, safe, boring. Humans fought differently. Nari's ship came in fast and low, using the gravity of Jupiter's moons to slingshot around and hit the enemy from an unexpected angle. Her weapons were different too. Instead of the plasma cannons that most species used, human ships mounted railguns and missile systems, kinetic weapons that the Council shields were not designed to stop. The Defiance tore through a formation of Council cruisers. Her railguns punched through shields like they were not even there. 3 ships exploded in the first pass. Then she was gone, accelerating away before the enemy could respond. All across the battle space, human ships were doing the same thing. Hit and run, strike from unexpected angles, never stay still. Never give the enemy a clear shot. It was guerrilla warfare translated to 3 dimensions and the vacuum of space. Captain Dong Yun commanded one of the stealth ships, the Ghost Runner. His vessel was smaller than Nari's, but it was nearly invisible to sensors. He led his squadron deep into enemy territory, behind the main battle lines. "Target the supply ships," Dong Yun ordered. "Council doctrine requires massive logistical support. Cut their supplies, and they will falter." The stealth ships struck like ghosts. Supply vessels that thought they were safely behind the battle lines suddenly found themselves under attack. Tankers full of fuel exploded. Ammunition ships were destroyed. Medical frigates were disabled and left drifting. The Council had never faced an enemy that attacked their logistics. It was considered dishonorable in traditional galactic warfare. There were rules about these things. Conventions. Humans did not care about the conventions. 2 weeks into the battle, the Council had lost 4,000 ships. Earth had lost 67. The math was simple and brutal. At this rate, humanity would lose. But the rate of loss was slowing. The Council was becoming cautious, fearful. They had expected an easy victory and found a nightmare instead. Counselor Mervyn, commanding from his flagship, grew frustrated. "These humans fight like cowards. They run and hide. They strike from shadows. This is not honorable combat." His tactical officer, a younger member of his species, spoke carefully. "Perhaps, honored counselor, honor is not the best strategy here. The humans are winning." "Winning?" Mervyn roared. "We still outnumber them 10-1. "Yes, counselor, but 2 weeks ago we outnumbered them 75-1. They are killing us faster than we are killing them. If this continues..." Mervyn silenced him with a gesture, but he knew the officer was right. This was not going according to plan. The Council had expected to crush humanity in days. Instead, they were locked in a grinding battle that they were slowly losing. "Order a direct assault on Earth itself," Mervyn commanded. "We will bypass their fleet and strike at their home. They will surrender to save their planet." It was a desperate move, but Mervyn was desperate. 3,000 ships broke off from the main fleet and accelerated toward Earth. They pushed past the human defenders, accepting heavy losses to get through. The Council lost 600 more ships in the push, but 2,400 made it through. They thought they had won. They thought Earth was defenseless. They were wrong. Commander Minho smiled as the enemy ships approached Earth. "Execute Operation Avalanche," he said quietly. All across the solar system, things that had appeared to be moons and asteroids suddenly came alive. They were not natural objects. They were ships. Massive ships that had been hiding in plain sight for years. Engines fired, weapons came online, shields activated, 800 warships, the hidden fleet, humanity's reserve force. They appeared around the Council ships like wolves surrounding prey. The Council ships found themselves trapped, humans in front of them, humans behind them, humans on every side. The battle was brief and brutal. The Council ships fought desperately, but they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Captain Nari's fleet had followed them in and now attacked from behind. The hidden fleet attacked from the sides. The orbital defenses fired from below. In 30 minutes, the Council lost 2,000 ships. Only 400 escaped back to the main fleet. Counselor Mervyn's flagship was among those that did not escape. Nari's ship engaged it in single combat. The Dreadnought was 10 times the size of the Defiance, but size did not matter. Nari's crew was better trained. Her weapons were better designed. Her tactics were superior. The flagship's shields failed. Its engines exploded. Its weapons went silent. Mervyn and his crew of 3,000 died when the reactor went critical. Back at the main fleet, Counselor Thex watched the disaster unfold. He had lost 6,000 ships in 2 weeks. Humanity had revealed a hidden fleet that doubled their known strength. The siege was failing. Worse, reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Other species were watching this battle. Young species, ambitious species. Species that had also chafed under Council control. They saw humanity fighting. They saw humanity winning. And they were starting to ask questions. "Pull back," Thex ordered. "Reform at the outer system. We need to reassess." But pulling back was harder than pushing forward. The human ships harassed the retreat every step of the way. More ships were lost. Confusion spread through the Council ranks. Some species began to wonder if their own leaders had sent them to die for nothing. On Earth, people watched the news broadcasts with disbelief and hope. They were winning. Against impossible odds, humanity was actually winning. It did not mean the war was over. The Council still had 9,000 ships. But it meant survival was possible. Victory was possible. In a secret location, Ambassador Sujin prepared for her own mission. While the military fought in space, she had been traveling to neutral worlds, meeting with ambassadors from other species, sharing information, planting seeds of doubt about the Council's authority. "They are vulnerable now," Sujin said to her team. "The siege has failed. Species are questioning Council leadership. This is our chance to break their political power the way our military is breaking their fleet." The battle had been won, but the war was far from over, and the next phase would not be fought with weapons. It would be fought with words and ideas and the hope of freedom that humans carried wherever they went. The siege of Earth had become a stalemate. The Council Armada stayed at the edge of the solar system, neither advancing nor retreating. They had lost too many ships to push forward. But they had too much pride to admit defeat and go home. So they waited, and the days turned into weeks. But while the military situation was frozen, the political situation across the galaxy was exploding. Ambassador Sujin stood before a gathering of ambassadors from 40 different species. They met on a neutral station, far from Council space. These were representatives from younger species, ones that had only been in the Council for a few centuries. They still remembered what freedom felt like. "The Council tells you they protect you," Sujin said. "They tell you that without them, chaos would reign. But look at what they do to species that become too strong. Look at what they tried to do to humanity." She displayed holographic images, historical records that human intelligence had uncovered. 6 different species over the past 2,000 years. All of them had shown promise. All of them had advanced quickly. All of them had been systematically weakened by Council policies until they were no longer threats. "This is what awaits any species that grows too powerful," Sujin continued. "The Council does not want partners. They want subjects. They want control." An ambassador from the Kelvin species spoke up. They were an insect-like race with compound eyes and mandibles. "But what choice do we have? The Council controls the jump gates. They control trade. They control access to technology. Without them, we would be isolated." That was true, Sujin admitted. Until now. Humanity has developed independent faster than light travel. We do not need their gates. And we are willing to share this technology with any species that wants true independence. The chamber erupted in discussion. Independent FTL was the dream of every species. It meant freedom, real freedom. "Why should we trust you?" another ambassador asked. "How do we know humans will not just replace the Council as the new masters?" It was a fair question. Sujin had expected it. "Because we do not want to rule you. We barely have time to rule ourselves. We just want to be left alone. We want to live free and let others do the same. Judge us by our actions. We are here offering you technology, not demanding tribute. We are here proposing alliance, not obedience." One by one, ambassadors began to speak. Some were cautious, some were enthusiastic, but all of them were thinking about what Sujin had said. All of them were reconsidering their relationship with the Council. Within days, 12 species formally announced they were withdrawing from the Council to remain neutral. They would no longer send ships to the Armada at Earth. They would no longer support Council policies. 5 more species went even further. They declared support for humanity and signed mutual defense pacts. The Council was fracturing. Back on Earth, a historian named Jiwon was working on a project that would change everything. He had spent months gathering data, analyzing patterns, and writing what would become the most important document of the war. It was titled The Illusion of Unity, and it detailed exactly how the Council maintained power. The technology suppression, the economic control, the military intimidation, but most importantly, it showed the patterns. Every time a species became too advanced, the same thing happened. Restrictions, regulations, eventually submission or destruction. Jiwon published his work on the Galactic Net. It spread like wildfire. Young species read it and recognized their own experiences. They saw the patterns they had lived through. They understood, perhaps for the first time, that they were not free. They had never been free. Protests began on dozens of worlds. Younger species demanded answers from their governments. Why had they accepted council control? Why had they not resisted? Governments that had been stable for centuries suddenly found themselves facing angry populations. On Nexus Prime, the council capital, riots broke out. Different species fought each other in the streets. Some supported the council. Others supported humanity. The ancient city burned in places. Councillor Thex watched the chaos from his tower and felt something he had not experienced in a very long time: fear. The council was losing control. Not through military defeat, but through political collapse. The idea of resistance, the example that humanity had set, was spreading faster than any fleet could move. Then came the worst blow of all. Captain Minji commanded a small strike force of human ships. She was young, only 28, but she was brave and clever. Her mission was to raid a council research facility in a remote system. Intelligence suggested the facility held important data. The raid went perfectly. Human Marines stormed the facility, while council defenders were still trying to understand what was happening. Within an hour, Minji's team had downloaded the facility's entire database and was heading back to human space. What they found in that database was horrifying. The council had been developing biological weapons. Not just any weapons, but ones designed to target specific species based on their genetic code. Weapons that could kill every member of a species while leaving others untouched. Weapons of genocide. And they had not been developing these weapons for defense. The files made that clear. These were tools of control. If a species became too troublesome, too independent, too powerful, the council had planned to exterminate them. Humanity had been on the target list, so had 40 other species. Ambassador Jinwoo received the data while he was at a diplomatic meeting with neutral species. He stared at the files with cold horror. Then he made a decision. "Broadcast this to the entire galaxy," he ordered. "Everyone needs to see what the council really is." The data went out on every channel, every frequency, every communications network in known space. Within hours, billions of beings across hundreds of worlds had seen the evidence. The council had been preparing to commit genocide, multiple genocides, possibly hundreds of them over the centuries. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Fury, betrayal, horror. Species that had been loyal to the council for thousands of years turned against it overnight. How could they trust leaders who had planned to exterminate them? How could they remain in an organization that saw them as potential problems to be eliminated? On Nexus Prime, the riots turned into full rebellion. Council security forces tried to restore order, but they were overwhelmed. The massive government buildings were stormed. Council members fled for their lives. Thex barely escaped in a small ship, leaving behind the capital that had been the center of galactic power for millennia. The Galactic Council was dying, not with a bang, but with the death of trust and legitimacy. Within the Council armada at Earth, chaos reigned. Species began recalling their ships. Entire fleets broke off and headed home. Some species declared they would no longer follow council orders. Others declared themselves neutral. A Velic ambassador named Kelris contacted Jinwoo directly. Kelris was young by Velic standards, only 60 years old. He represented a faction within the Velic Empire that was tired of the old ways. "Ambassador Jinwoo," Kelris said, "not all Velic support what the council has done. Many of us have watched humanity's resistance with admiration. We want change, we want reform, but we need help." "What kind of help?" Jinwoo asked carefully. "The old guard, Thex and his followers, they will try to hold on to power. There will be civil war among my people. We need allies. We need support. In exchange, We will share everything we know about Council systems and technologies. We will stand with humanity in building something new. Jinwoo thought carefully. This was a risk, but it was also an opportunity. I will discuss this with my government, but personally, Ambassador Kelris, I think we can work together. The old order is dead. The question now is what we build to replace it. Across the galaxy, species were asking themselves the same question. The Council had controlled galactic civilization for 10,000 years. Now it was collapsing. What came next? The battle had been won through military strength. But the war was being won through something more powerful. An idea. The idea that species did not have to accept the chains that others put on them. The idea that freedom was worth fighting for. The idea that change was possible. Humanity had not set out to destroy the Galactic Council. They had only wanted to be left alone, but by refusing to submit, by standing up and fighting back, they had inspired others to do the same. And now the galaxy would never be the same again. The old order was crumbling. A new one was being born, and at the center of it all was a simple truth that humans had known for their entire history, a truth they had now taught the galaxy. No one is free until everyone is free, and freedom is always worth the cost. 3 months after humanity withdrew from the Galactic Council, the old order was gone. Nexus Prime, once the shining capital of galactic civilization, was a city divided. Parts of it still burned from the riots. Council members who remained hid in fortified towers, clinging to the illusion of power they no longer possessed. 400 species had formally withdrawn from the Council. Some had done it quietly. Others had done it with declarations of independence that echoed across the galaxy. The remaining species, mostly the ancient powers who had benefited most from the old system, tried to maintain that everything was normal. But everyone could see the truth. The Council was finished. Ambassador Jinwoo stood in a conference room on Unity Station, a new facility that humanity had built in neutral space. Around the table sat representatives from 50 different species. Some were old allies, some were former enemies. All of them were here to discuss the future. "We need a new system," said Ambassador Kelris. The young Velik had become the leader of the reform movement within his species. Behind him, his empire was splitting between those who wanted change and those who clung to the past. "The Council model is dead. We need something different. Something that respects the sovereignty of all species," added an ambassador from the Kelvin. "No more central authority that can dictate terms to everyone else." Director Taiyang, representing Earth, nodded. "We propose the Free Systems Alliance. Every species would have equal voting power, regardless of how old they are or how many worlds they control. One species, one vote. Technology would be shared freely among members. Military action would require unanimous consent." "That would make it hard to do anything," someone pointed out. "Good," Jinwoo said. "It should be hard to go to war. It should be hard to impose your will on others. The Council made it too easy to control people. We want to make it easy to cooperate and hard to dominate." The debate went on for hours. Some species worried that humans would simply replace the Council as the new masters. Others worried about weaker species being exploited without central protection. Every concern was discussed. Every fear was addressed. Finally, Captain Nari spoke. She had been invited as a military representative. "I understand your concerns. You look at humanity's military strength and wonder if we can be trusted. So let me tell you what we are going to do. We are dismantling our hidden weapons platforms. We are opening our shipyards to inspection. We are sharing our technology freely with anyone who wants it. Judge us by our actions, not our words." "Why would you give up your advantages?" someone asked. "Because we do not want to rule the galaxy," Nari said simply. "We just want to live in it. We want to explore. We want to trade. We want to make friends with other species. We want to be left alone to grow in our own way, and we want the same for everyone else. Over the next weeks, the Free Systems Alliance took shape. 620 species joined in the first year. Some joined immediately. Others waited and watched, wanting to see if this new alliance would be different from the Council. Slowly, they became convinced. Humanity kept its promises. They shared their FTL technology. They opened their research to anyone who wanted access. They helped weaker species develop their own defenses. When pirates attacked a small species on the frontier, human ships responded within hours. Not to conquer, not to control, just to help. The old council continued to exist in a diminished form. About 150 species remained with it, mostly the ancient powers who could not accept the new order. They controlled less than a tenth of galactic space. They issued statements claiming they were still the legitimate government. No one paid much attention. The Valak Empire officially split. The old guard, led by Councillor Thex, held on to about 30% of Valak space. The reformers, led by Ambassador Kelris, controlled the rest. War seemed inevitable until Jinwu flew to both capitals and negotiated a peace agreement. The empire would be divided. Both factions would govern independently. Neither would interfere with the other. It was not a perfect solution, but it prevented a civil war that would have killed billions, and it showed that the new alliance could help resolve conflicts peacefully. 5 years after humanity's withdrawal, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The Free Systems Alliance had grown into the dominant power, not through conquest, but through voluntary association. Species joined because they wanted to, because they saw the benefits of cooperation between equals. Trade flourished. Technology advanced faster than it had in centuries. New colonies were founded. Old grudges were resolved through negotiation instead of war. It was not perfect. There were still conflicts. There were still problems. But there was also hope. Jinwu stood on the observation deck of Unity Station and looked out at the stars. He was older now, approaching 60. The stress of the past 5 years had aged him, but he had no regrets. Captain Nari, now Admiral Nari, joined him. Her hair was starting to gray at the temples. She had been promoted to lead the Alliance peacekeeping forces, not an army of conquest, just ships that responded when someone needed help. "I got your message," Nari said. "Another distress call?" "Yes," Jinwu replied. "A species on the edge of Alliance space. They are being attacked by remnant council forces. Pirates claiming to be restoring the old order." "How many ships do they have?" "About 40. Nari smiled. "I can have 200 ships there in 6 hours. Will that be enough?" "More than enough. But Admiral, try not to destroy them all. Some of them might be willing to join the Alliance if we give them the choice." "Always trying to make friends," Nari said with amusement. "That is what we do now," Jinwu said. "That is who we are." A young officer approached. She was not human. She was from a species that had been nearly extinct under Council rule. The Council had restricted their access to medical technology, and their population had fallen to only a few 100,000. Now, with Alliance help, they were recovering. Their population was growing again. "Ambassador Jinwu," the young officer said, "I wanted to thank you. My people would not exist without humanity's courage. You gave us hope when we had none." Jinwu felt a lump in his throat. "We just did what was right." "Maybe," the officer said, "but no one else did it. Only you. Only humans. You stood up when everyone else was kneeling. You fought when everyone else had given up. You changed everything." After she left, Nari looked at Jinwu. "Do you ever wonder if we did the right thing, starting this war? So many people died." "Every day," Jinwu admitted. "Thousands of humans died in the fighting, tens of thousands from other species. I think about them all the time, but then I think about what would have happened if we had not fought. We would have been neutered. controlled, eventually destroyed. And the Council would have continued to rule the galaxy through fear and suppression. He gestured at the stars. Now look at what we have. 600 species working together as equals. Technology advancing, freedom spreading. Yes, we paid a terrible price, but we bought something precious. We bought the future. A message came through. The distress call they had received earlier. Admiral Nari's fleet had arrived at the troubled system. The pirates had scattered without a fight when they saw Alliance ships. The species being attacked was safe. Another problem solved, Nari said. Another species that will remember humanity helped them when they needed it. That is how we build trust, Jinwoo said. One action at a time, one kindness at a time. One kept promise at a time. He thought about the day he had stood in the council chamber and refused their demands. The day he had withdrawn humanity from the ancient alliance. It had seemed like the end of everything. Instead, it had been a beginning. Humanity had not set out to lead the galaxy. They had just wanted to be free, but in fighting for their own freedom, they had inspired others. In refusing to kneel, they had shown others they could stand. In building something new, they had given everyone a better option than the old ways. The galaxy was not perfect. There were still problems to solve, still conflicts to resolve, still injustices to fix. But for the first time in 10,000 years, there was real hope, real change, real freedom. Jinwoo smiled. His back hurt. His hair was gray. He was tired. But he was also happy. Because he had lived to see something incredible. He had lived to see humanity not just survive, but flourish. He had lived to see the galaxy change for the better. "What are you thinking about?" Nari asked. "I am thinking about what my old professor used to say," Jinwoo replied. "He said that the arc of history is long, but it bends toward justice. I never really understood what that meant until now." He looked out at the stars, at the ships moving between them. Human ships, Velic ships, Kelvin ships, ships from 600 different species, all flying together under the banner of the Free Systems Alliance. "We bent the arc," Jinwoo said quietly. "It took blood and sacrifice and pain, but we bent it, and the galaxy will never go back to what it was." A notification chimed. Another ship was arriving at Unity Station. Another species was sending an ambassador to discuss joining the alliance. Another people were choosing freedom over the old chains. The work would never be done. There would always be new challenges, new threats, new problems to solve. But that was okay. That was life. The important thing was that now, species had the freedom to face those challenges on their own terms. Humanity had turned its back on the Galactic Council, and in doing so, they had shaken the universe. They had shown that change was possible, that resistance was possible, that freedom was always worth fighting for. And the universe had listened. The old order was gone. The new order was still being built. And at its foundation was a simple truth that humanity had carried to the stars. No one is truly free until everyone is free, and the fight for freedom never ends. It just finds new battles, new causes, new reasons to stand up and say, "No more." Jinwoo watched the ships and smiled. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as friends, as allies, as the species that had dared to stand up when standing up seemed impossible. And that, he thought, was the greatest victory of all.